Well, hello there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But Ryan, there's one E that is often overlooked.
Why does that E get overlooked, man? Why don't people see it?
We see it.
And we'll tell you about it.
We're going to tell you about it right now, actually.
It's educational. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to help share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
I would love that.
What a wonderful world it would be. So the topic of today's source of growth, if you will.
Ooh, love it.
The 2025 film, Mickey 17, which just came out yesterday.
Yes.
That stars Robert Pattinson, Naomi Ackie, Mark Ruffalo, and Toni Collette. It was directed by Bong Joon-ho, who also wrote the screenplay based on the novel Mickey 7, written by Edward Ashton.
Love it.
As always, there will be enough spoilers to go around, so please consider yourselves hereby and officially warned. And if you haven't seen it and still listen, hopefully what we say will make you want to see it that much more.
Agreed.
You know? Be sure to leave a like, rating, or review wherever it is that you listen or watch, as it really helps us grow the show. And one thing I want to say is also please leave a comment.
Yeah,
Really.
we'd love to hear feedback.
Exactly.
And your experiences, what you felt about the movie. Did it hit you in this way? Did it hit you in a different way?
Yeah.
Let us hear it.
Yeah, we love all comments, and we do reply. too.
Yeah, we do reply.
And we do reply. So, Ryan, shall we begin?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
Well, Ryan, here we are again.
Well, Joe.
Yeah, and since we're sitting on the couch, you know.
As two guys do.
As two guys do with microphones.
Yeah. And this is just a normal situation.
Exactly. We always sit here. This is how we watch. This is how we watch movies.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's actually a screen behind, you can't see it, but we're watching as we speak.
Totally. I wish we were sitting on a balcony. That'd be
nice.
great.
Yeah.
Straight
Good view.
Straight out of the Muppets. That would be fantastic. Anyway, so here we are discussing a movie we've just seen.
Literally just. I saw it like an hour and a half ago.
Yep, very fresh.
Very fresh in
and
mind.
one of the things I love about doing this podcast is the diversity of films that we see. It's something we were already discussing this afternoon.
Yeah.
With very rare exceptions, I feel there is so much to discuss that my biggest challenge is trying to keep the episodes I host to a ballpark of 40 minutes or less.
Yeah,
because and Ryan and I have discussed this. There are so many scenes in these movies that was like, oh, I'd love to talk about that, and this show would be as long as the movies.
Yeah, it's tough. You have to narrow it down. You have to just pick and choose like the specific moments.
Exactly. And today I think I'm up to the challenge of that. We'll see. Just because of how this particular movie hit me.
Sure.
And I think there will be enough to discuss, but I'll get into how it hit me.
I love it. I love the suspense.
First, I want to just say, right off the top, I have mad respect for Bong Joon-ho. I loved Snowpiercer. It was, by all accounts, a wild ride.
Literally.
Quite literally. I also loved Parasite, another great ride, so to speak. And despite the subject of the film, I found myself smiling a lot because I thought it was just fantastic storytelling.
Oh my God! Yeah, he's one of the best. One of the best in the biz, as they say.
Very true. And to me, that movie showed in extreme ways a lot about human nature. So I could sink my, life perspective teeth into Parasite in a big way.
Yeah.
And you and I, obviously we do this podcast because that's how we look at films, and we want to know what they tell us about the human experience and our own. And
how does it affect us?
For sure. And even though Parasite, first of all, it's in Korea, and the setting is incredibly different, but the themes,
completely
relatable. Yes, extreme, quasi-cartoonish, right. But still there was a human element to both of those movies. That really struck me.
Me as well.
Yeah, and I completely appreciate it. So, like I was saying, Parasite was over the top in some ways, but it still felt grounded. Universal themes of poverty, desperation, greed, and envy. Now, granted, it was not a shinier, lovelier side of humanity.
Sure, we have movies for that as well.
True.
Those movies
True.
exist.
They do. But
sometimes you got to see the nitty gritty.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so I appreciated Parasite for that. So Mickey 17, in my humble opinion, had the over-the-top elements, but to me it didn't have that foundation in humanity.
Okay.
And so it left me wondering if I could actually lead a worthwhile discussion for this episode. But hey, like I said, I like a challenge, and we'll see what happens. And quite frankly, since I've had a little bit more time since I wrote what I just said, I'm coming around to it a little bit more. So
I love that. Sometimes you need, we talk about this too all the time. Sometimes you need a little bit of time to digest a film. You need a little bit, you need maybe a day or two or sometimes longer than that to really let it sink in, all the different elements. I mean, so much is being thrown at you. The score, the production, the characters, the scenes, it's like sometimes that's a lot to take in, which is oftentimes what people say, well, I need to see it a second time so I can really watch it.
Right.
First time you're just being...
Right,
it's just all coming at you.
Absolutely, because this is not a quiet contemplative film. This is full on. This is a throttle on full for a lot of it.
Yeah, it's firing on all cylinders from the beginning to the end. I mean, that's how I felt about it.
And I was telling Ryan before doing this, my schedule is such that I went straight from the cinema to, I had several things to do and I couldn't think about it. I couldn't just take the time to sit down and think. So the way it was bouncing around in my head was just causing confusion.
Reasonably so.
Yeah, but
let's see where you took it.
All right, here's where I took it.
I'm excited.
Just jumping right in. So, Ryan, it seems that AI is upon us.
Oh, is it ever?
Now, it's not quite at the level yet that we see in Mickey 17 or Companion, a film that we covered a few weeks back. But it's here, and we need to grapple with some of the myriad ethical questions that arise from our journey into this new frontier, don't you think?
I think so.
I think so, too. So, in Mickey 17, our protagonist is... And I warned you all that there would be spoilers. Our protagonist is a 3D printout.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
very
what
sophisticated,
he is. Very
3D printout.
sophisticated 3D printout.
Yep.
A really super impressive 3D printout.
Agreed.
And like, holy shit. He's played in duplicate, if you will, by Robert Pattinson, who found a speaking voice I never imagined him capable of pulling off.
He's got it in him, man. That guy is...
sound alone. I just thought, I wonder if he had a lot of, road trips and he's driving alone by himself and just kind of experimenting with voices and seeing what he can come up with. And I questioned if that were actually him at times. But anyway.
He also plays a character in the Boy and the Heron.
I did not see that.
Film. It's an animated film that Studio Ghibli, where he's got, I think he plays like a bird or something like that.
Okay.
And he has the most bizarre, when people heard that it was Robert Pattinson's voice, they were like, what? Okay. So this guy's got massive chops, massive range.
Doesn't he?
And he can do it all.
Yeah, really impressive. So before I go down, any particular road, I want to ask you a question, Ryan.
Okay.
So are there things that you do in your life, possibly in your daily life, that show you like where you are, show you how you're doing that day without anyone asking you, without anyone saying, hey, Ryan, how are you?
Sure.
Are there things that you do that kind of show you where you are? And what I'm looking for is your mirror, so to speak. So the one that you look at, but the ones that are out there in the world that give you feedback and show you. And so if you need a moment to think about it, I can give you a couple examples in my daily life.
Yeah, let me hear what in your life.
Okay.
What's your mirror, Joe?
So one of my mirrors, and it's funny because it's not like I guess I can kind of fool myself with this, but it's how am I driving?
Okay.
That is one of them. And
driving in terms of...
So am I driving to win like most people in LA? Because that's the term that I use. Most people on the road are driving to win. Do they think that they're going to get a trophy? I mean, seriously, look at what you're doing.
Yeah. There's like some sort of race they're having. Like, I got to get to the finish line.
Right. And so I keep looking for the checkered flag.
Right.
Which, of course, is never there.
So you're saying that sometimes if you catch yourself in that sort of mindset, you're like, oh, that must be how I'm feeling today.
So-
Like I'm just on edge maybe, or
No, so actually it's more specific than that. So,
Oh.
so yes, so I ask, am I driving like most people in LA, or do I let people just, hey, you want to get in front of me? Oh, go for it. No problem. Or do I speed up so that they can't get in front of me?
okay,
You
I'm
know?
getting you now.
And it's how fast am I driving? So speaking of speed, here's something I just want to throw at you that I got from a Buddhist master,
Okay, let me hear it.
a Western Buddhist
Some
master.
wisdom.
He told me if you drive 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, more than 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, your ego has you by the throat all day.
Ah, interesting.
And so it doesn't matter when you do it. Doesn't matter if you slow down after that. Your ego's going, oh yeah, I own you. And so I heard that, and I was someone who used to drive pretty darn fast.
Okay.
And so I did my best to curb that speed and stay within 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. And I found it super challenging. But at the same time,
Sure.
I could see I felt calmer. I felt what he said actually to me made complete sense. I could see where if I stayed 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, that was my max. I wasn't thinking about, gotta get there faster. You're in my way. It was a complete, it brought with it a
Sure.
different type of mindset.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
I gotta maybe adopt this thing because I am a little bit of a driver culprit.
and see if it works for you.
Sure.
See if it works for you.
Yeah, I gotta try that out.
How I'm driving really does tell me a lot about what's going on with me, because there are days where I feel like I'm a very generous driver. It's like we come to the stop sign at the same time. Hey, you do it. Go for it. It's all you.
Right,
And there are
yeah.
other days where I'm thinking, F you. It's
got
all
somewhere- yeah.
me.
Sure.
And when I see myself do that, it's like, ooh, oh, yeah,
This is kind of like a self-temperature check.
it is. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Then I think I do have one that I do in my own life.
Yeah.
How reliant am I on being entertained?
Oh, that is a really good one.
If there are days where I feel like I need to be entertained at every moment, I go from the TV to the phone to the computer to the podcast to the music. There's never a break.
So
There's never a second away from it. And
So do
in
you-
those days,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more on edge. I need to be eased. And my way of easing myself is by drowning it out with this entertainment.
So do you ever catch yourself and go, oh God, look what I'm doing, and curb it?
100%. Now I'm aware that that is my crutch, that is my...
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm fully... I became aware of it at some point where I was like... So now, like you're saying, it's like a temperature check. I'll be in bed on my phone and I'll go, wait a second. I'll be like, man, I'm that person today. Like I'm in that zone right now. And then I'll try to, okay, what you really need is time away from it. Time away from the phone. Pick up the book.
Good for you.
Read
Go
a book,
for a walk.
Go for a walk. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I see where I'm at.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's good. I when you first said it, I was like, what is he talking about? But you giving the driving was a perfect illustration to me that,
Okay.
that just lit that up.
Okay.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right on. I'll still give you one more example.
Let's
even
hear it.
though it sounds like you've got this down.
Yeah.
The other mirror I have is how I treat people I encounter who I don't know.
Mm.
And so, like the checkout clerks at Trader Joe's or the barista at the cafe, even if they want $8 of my dollars for a double shot Americano, how am I treating them? Do I engage with them? Do I ask them how they're doing?
Yeah.
Do I listen to their response? Do I ask them even if they don't ask me? And perhaps the biggest question to me is, am I respectful?
Okay, so this, in a way, what are you learning from this then? What do you take from this? So if you have an interaction at the grocery store, say, and you walk outside and you sit in your car and you go, man, what was that about? Why was I dismissive? Why was I trying to get out of there as fast as I could? What was it?
I try to be a lot faster at catching it than that. I try to catch myself in the moment and just think, "Ooh, it's like I'm in a particular zone, or I can tell there's a certain edge to me. And so if I can catch it like while I'm still at Trader Joe's and I'm having a great visual of Studio City Trader Joe's and being in this mindset and catching myself, and it's like I try to practice what I wish I didn't know this kind of stuff, but my dad was a psych major and he used to talk about all this kind of stuff. So there's this guy named I believe William Glasser, who taught behavioral therapy. And if you can do the behavior, it's like if you can act a certain way, you can be a certain way. So if you want to be friendlier or whatever, act friendlier.
Fair.
And so if I catch myself in the moment, then I'll make myself just right in the moment be a little bit more compassionate or giving or
Make that
friendly.
adjustment.
Yeah, and I'll try to make that adjustment. If I didn't catch it in time and I'm at the car going, oh man, then I just think, okay, I'll be on top of this. I'm looking at my driving, and the next time I come to
An opportunity like that, yeah.
I'll just do it better.
Sure. I kudos to you, man. I don't think a lot of people do that, so that's a lot of respect.
Well, I've had to learn the hard way.
Hey, as long as you learn.
Thousands of like Groundhog Day kind of things. So
So my question is, how did this make you think of Mickey 17? That's
Yeah.
what I want to get to.
here's why. And
Okay.
this is why I started with the whole AI. you
Okay.
know? So I bring this up because I believe that AI will give us all an opportunity to see ourselves, to see who we are by the way we interact and react with AI. So time will tell if that's true or not. But before we go any further, I'm going to try to give a brief synopsis of this movie.
I'm excited to see where you take this conversation, this discussion. That's an interesting point you bring up. Let's get into it.
All right. Before we do, though, I just want to, even if you've seen the movie, it was either yesterday or today, so it's going to be really, or the last couple of days. So it's going to be pretty fresh for you. But
Sure.
I gotta love IMDb overviews because, The Wizard of Oz, a young girl meets some friends and they go on a journey.
It's
Okay.
it's
Okay,
to the
that's-
point.
that is
It's
the Wizard of Oz,
concise.
if you will.
Yeah.
So here's the synopsis that I thought was kind of funny for Mickey 17. Its brevity is extraordinary. Mickey 17, known as an expendable, goes on a dangerous journey to colonize an ice planet. True dat.
Sure. That's exactly what happens in the movie. You're right.
Not wrong, but a little shy in details. So I'm going to try to fill in some of the blanks here. So Mickey was once a real boy. A real boy who really didn't care to read the fine print and became the prototype for the ultimate AI crash test dummy.
Ooh, that's a good, I like that AI crash test dummy.
That's how I look at him.
He even had that there's a brief shot or two in the film where it compares him to a crash test dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
great.
It
Great
absolutely what he
descriptor.
was. So Mickey, the real person, was Mickey 1. Okay. So he didn't last long. And after that, all the future versions of Mickey were literally 3D prints of the original Mickey. And given the number of their versions, hence the protagonist in this is the 17th version of Mickey.
So he's died 16
He has
times.
died 16 times.
And we see a lot of those.
Yeah. Yes, we do. We see him getting recycled. So, of course, all of the memories are uploaded into the new version, as are the emotions, as are the ability to feel physical pain and sensations. And Mickey comes in super handy when it came to colonizing a new planet, because it'd be like, hey, Mickey, now that you're standing on the surface of the planet, could you please take off your helmet and take a deep breath? Because we're really wondering what the air's like out there. And, well, you're going to find out for us. And if you die, we will find out what you died from, and it'll be super helpful.
I feel like for me, when I was watching, I was like, there was part of me that was, man, I could really see how valuable this would be. It's like why we experiment on animals, right?
Well, you could also say lab rat.
Yeah. It's why we do, like, well, let's see what it's going to do to them before we test it on ourselves. So here's the ultimate. It's like it's a human. It's got human tissue and human this and that.
Exactly.
So you're right. There is an ethical question.
There is, and Mengele blew right through that that ethical question, of course, years ago in Germany. But it does conjure some questions.
Sure.
So
there's a lot of examples of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't need to go to the next one, but
he continuously
he
tests out things
he
before
does.
human beings
He
have
does.
to.
Exactly.
I love too when they're like, describe exactly what you're feeling. Let us know the exact moment when your skin starts to burn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like when you die, that's important that we know,
Yeah,
right? When you know,
exactly.
they can get the data.
Which, again, I can also see the value of that.
Extremely valuable.
But okay, totally. So like,
We'll get into
so
it.
many thoughts that my mouth wasn't working there for a second. So it does take 4.5 years to get to this ice planet, and Mickey, falls in love, which is a whole other subject, which we've touched on a bit in our companion episode, and we won't go into here. And he seemingly has a pretty good life, when he's not being tortured for the sake of the humans. But is it torture if he's a machine?
There's the question.
So many questions, Ryan. But before we get into those discussions, let's have a bad guy break.
Let's do it, man.
Okay. All right. So, pull out trusty
excited.
iPhone for this one.
Mickey 17 bad guy break.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know.
let's do it.
So the year, Ryan, is 1995.
Okay. Good year. Good year, I want to say. Very
I
fantastic.
completely
year.
agree. The medium is film.
Okay.
The genre, I love this, straight from IMDb again. Action epic / AI / cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk. This has to be Blade Runner.
Starring Hugo Weaving.
I don't know who Hugo Weaving is.
Well, he was Mr. Smith.
Oh, in Matrix.
Yes.
Okay.
The Matrix.
Mr. Smith. No, wait. Wait, who's Mr. Anderson?
Oh, no, Mr. Anderson was Neo.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. And Mr. Smith, right.
I knew if I said Keanu, you'd get it right away.
I
just had to.
That's a good bad guy break for this.
So, yeah.
Same ethical questions in that movie as well.
Well, you had talk about evil AI.
Oh,
They were trying to, they were using humans as power sources.
Sure.
And that's it.
Sure. Yeah. I have to watch that again, man. Maybe we'll do that as one of our movies at some point.
We have to.
We should.
It's one of my favorite
Give me an
films,
excuse
actually.
to watch it again.
Yeah, exactly. As if we need one.
Right.
All right, so let's jump into a scene.
Let's do it.
Scene number 1. So this scene is between Mickey 17 and Kai Katz, played by Anna Maria Vartolome. I hope I said your name right. Anna Maria. It's a beautiful name. It takes place in Kai's room. Her partner has just been killed on an expedition into a cave on the planet where these people have colonized, and Mickey was on that expedition, and clearly he survived. The two of them are now alone in Kai's room, sitting on her bed. She brought her into his room with some kind of intent, and that was clear. We just didn't know what it was.
She brought him into her room.
Oh,
yes.
I meant to say that. Thank you for correcting me if I
Yes.
didn't. And she makes him some tea and lets him know that that's hard to come by.
Right.
This tea.
This is from Earth.
It's
Yeah.
from Earth, so the odds of it being replaced are right around nil.
Right.
So she wants to know, what's it like dying?
Yeah, the age-old question, huh?
So this is why she brought him into her room. So, to get that answer and maybe partake in some naked extracurriculars, because she showed that she did have some kind of other interest in him,
yes.
which was interesting because, again, he is a 3D printout.
Sure.
But she's not the only one to ask him that.
Yeah, we see it multiple times throughout the film.
We do. And I completely understand the desire to ask the question. I totally get it, because passing away is a fairly large event for us.
And we can't ask anyone.
We can't.
Right now, we don't have the ability.
We can and we can't. Because there are people who have, the near death, who are brought back, who flatline.
Sure.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
though.
I don't
Has
think-
anyone been gone for a year and
Has
come
anyone
back
died
and say,
and
let me
truly,
tell
like,
you what it's
yeah.
like?
Right.
No, that has not yet happened.
Right. So if it was me too, I'd wonder the same thing. But he's
Right.
tired of hearing it. But
Right. True.
as one would be, as I would be if I was in his shoes as well.
True. So even though that question's being asked, I'm saying, yet we treat it in our heads as something that happens to other people, to old people. Mm-hmm. And this is my opinion, of course, and I'm guilty of this too. But to me, if we really knew we were going to die, we'd live our lives very differently.
Sure. For most of us, it feels so far away that we don't think about it.
Absolutely true. It's too abstract.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me that if we really knew we could shed this mortal coil at any moment, we'd be truly alive. So
Yeah, that's what people say, right? If you
it's-
lived every day like it was your last day, life would be a lot different.
for sure. So I think you just touched on this, but I want to know, like, do you think about this, Ryan? Like, I'm going to pass away someday, and how am I living? And do you think about this?
Oh my God, 100%.
Okay.
I'm such an existential person. I think about death constantly, not in a morbid way, not in a I'm scared, I'm afraid. I am, but more in a. We've talked about this before. I forget what episode it was on, but my view of it is that it's final, that there's no continuation, there's no rebirth, there's no heaven, there's anything like that. So for me, just Ryan Vanderhei, me personally, everybody has their own outlook. I think it is a light switch off, and so that in turn factors into how I view things and how I live my life, and I try to be the best son and the best friend and the best boyfriend and the best stranger that I can be to people, because I do feel, and I try to appreciate moments before their memories and things, because I think this is it. This is all I have. There's nothing else. So this is my one chance to experience this.
So I love where that leads you, how you look at it. I love where that leads you, because I was raised Catholic, and I've heard one of my brothers say this before, that if I hate to speak for him, I'm not going to say his name, so no one's going to know who it is. Anyway,
he knows he's going to
but
listen to it though.
Potentially.
What the heck, man?
This might sound familiar to him, but he's thinking that if you didn't have the threat of a God that would smite you, what would stop you from being a criminal? And I don't think that way, but he does.
Sure.
And a lot of people do. They feel like, well, I need to get that. I want to get to heaven, or I want to be rewarded in the afterlife. And so I am going to be good here because I want that. And to me, that makes people's actions filled with ulterior motives.
Sure.
And the way you're looking at it to me is very different, because to me, you're thinking, this is it, and I want it to be a really good ride. I want it to be fantastic for myself and for others, not because I'm hoping to get some, prize at the end.
Sure.
But because there actually is no prize. The prize is how I live, right?
I do, and I do find myself conflicted in that belief at times, because I question it, because I don't know. It's the unknown, right? I could be wrong.
To me,
I could 100% be wrong about that.
You could be, but to me, you're being honest with yourself, and that's what I think is
And
valuable.
I think that's what matters. If it is that, whatever your belief is, as long as you have conviction, as long as you're yourself, it doesn't matter. I don't think other people should have the ability to negatively impact that. And what I mean by that is, like, you believe what you believe, Jane Doe believes what she believes,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
And as long as you're secure in that, that's all that matters.
Secure in that, and
As long as you're not harming people.
I was going to say, and I do no harm kind of thing.
Yeah, as long as you're
know,
not
because-
hurting people, then
right.
do whatever you want.
And there are good reasons why we have laws,
Of course, and that's kind
Yeah.
of something similar to what your brother's saying.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly if we just
It
were
is.
like, if we adopted the sentiment of, we don't really need some sort of, ulterior, like some sort, we're not going to be smitten down by God. Well, then just remove the laws.
Yeah.
Everybody should just but we know that's not the case, right? I think some people do need,
Some
need
guardrails.
law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise,
For sure.
there are some people who will step out of those boundaries,
For sure.
unfortunately.
I think what it sounds like to me is that you've learned through your personal experience that if you, like, how you treat people matters.
Yeah.
How you are towards a lot of things. It really matters.
Mm-hmm.
And why not make things better for all of us? Like by being a little kinder,
Sure.
by being a little more compassionate, what
Absolutely.
have you, and also giving people grace when they need it or want it,
100%. Humility.
Totally. So the reason I bring this up
Okay.
is that, look, I can understand wanting to know what it's like to pass away, but this is where I personally, Joe, struggled with this, asking a printout what it's like to die.
Yeah.
Because they're a freaking machine, okay?
Yeah.
So the machine says, and his answer, Mickey's 17's answer was, I hate it. He said, it's terrible dying. I hate it.
Yeah.
That actually agitated me sitting
That
in
evoked
the
a
cinema.
reaction?
It really did.
I'd love to have been there and just seen Joe
actually,
kinda like,
I did. I started squirming. It actually really upset me.
Okay.
And I thought, sure, you hate it. Of course you do, because it's painful. Or at least, it's what your programming is telling you. Your programming is telling you that it's painful.
Yeah.
And but then you're going to find yourself fresh coming out of a printer again, and your memory of a painful death that's just happened will be really fresh. This machine to me is not the right person to ask, though I do get why people ask, because the experience of this particular machine is going to be entirely different.
And listen, there's a scene later on in the film that kind of calls back to this, that I don't know if you're going to touch on that or not. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here.
It's okay.
But when someone, I forget who the character is, says that, brings that to light, like, well, yeah, of course, you're going to come out.
And I don't touch on that, so we can talk about that.
Yeah,
right
there
now
is
if
a
you want.
scene
So,
later on in the film where
Mickey 18.
right, it's
Yep.
like, yeah, of course,
Yep,
it's different for you. You know that you're gonna
That's right.
wake up again.
So because while you were saying what your perspective of is, you pass away and the switch gets flipped. That's a Mickey 18. And for people who've seen the movie, they're going to understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Perspective, because he's not going to get reprinted. He's not coming back. It's just here and done.
Yeah, right. That was 17 talking to 18.
Correct.
Where 17 was saying, if I die, you're already here. They're not going to reprint me. So
That's right.
It's final.
That's right.
That's it. There's no print getting printed back out again.
Right.
And so now I'm scared.
And vice versa. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was an interesting twist on this.
Very. And I'm glad they featured that.
But that was existentialism between two machines.
Yeah.
Okay. So that can only go so far.
Okay, so I'm seeing what this. Okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting why this movie impacted you like the way that it did.
That was part of it. That was just a frustration. Also, quite frankly, as someone who has had loved ones pass away, it was just hard. You don't want people thinking. That was just to me that kind of message, just like this being talking about, I hate it. I hate dying. There was something that hit me in my core that it was upsetting.
Okay, so were you then thinking of those people who have passed and man, it was terrible for them? It was excruciating?
The more I'm thinking of it is kind of in lines of what I was saying before, that if people were really cognizant about the fact that they'd pass away, hopefully that would make them look at their life differently and make different decisions, and which would lead to more enjoyment and less anxiety about passing away.
Sure.
That it's something that's natural. It's something that happens to everyone. You hope that it's not painful or lingering or a burden on others.
Yeah.
But to hear it's just, I hate it. It's like, it just made me want to punch that machine. It just did.
Sure.
And of course, for that particular machine, it makes sense.
Totally.
Makes complete sense.
Totally. And I think a lot of times we fear suffering more than we do dying.
I totally agree.
Dying's final.
Totally agree.
Here on Earth, death is final. I don't want to speak for everybody and say death's final in all regards, but I mean like your physical body, you as a human being will no longer be here if you're dead.
We're worm food.
So we don't
bodies. Yeah.
So that's very final, but the suffering part of it, I think, is what people are afraid of. That dying is going to hurt. That dying is going to be painful. That I'll be dying because I have some sort of disease or I get hit by a car or whatever it is.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And perhaps it was really obtuse why I brought up that scene and what I was talking about with, how do we check in with ourselves and what do we do to show us how we're thinking? The fact that these people are asking Mickey what it's like to die, to me, was saying a lot about them, about where those people are coming from,
Sure, because the woman that asked him in that first scene we discussed
Yep.
was asking him because which it never said, but her partner had just passed away.
Yeah.
And so that's why she was curious now. And I think he mentions that too. He's like, are you asking me because of so-and-so?
And I bet that was a bigger question for her anyway. And it was for the other people, because the other people that asked the question, it wasn't just necessarily because someone they knew passed away. It was just because it's something that's on their mind. It's something that they wonder about.
Yeah, just curious. So here's somebody who knows.
And
let me ask him.
And as AI advances, maybe people will be able to ask machines at some point,
I'll be freaked out. What worries me about that is it'll really freak me out if you're able to sort of reach a level of immortality, like uploading somebody's consciousness to a computer and then printing them out
I have
again.
some pretty strong thoughts about that.
You know what I mean? Like that's something that's gonna happen. We're not too far from that.
Then does that mean that the person is just a bundle of memories and sensory?
Right. That's what we're doing now. That's ChatGPT. That has all human history in its little brain, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I don't think we are like just a bundle of
right,
of storage,
yeah,
memories,
and that's what that would be. It would just be sort of an imitation of
that's right.
Of Joe Parente.
That's
it
right.
would just be, here's how Joe Parente acted when he was alive.
Yeah.
So here's just this puppeteer,
right.
this actor,
because
portraying him.
Okay, I really didn't think of going here on this.
But
what the heck?
Deep here.
It's okay. I like that.
Yeah,
Isn't that why we do this?
Sure, of course. We're uncovering things.
So I'm leaving my notes behind now, and I'm just gonna bring this thing up because have you ever seen anyone just after they've passed away?
After?
Yeah. And seen their eyes.
I've never seen anybody up close, no.
Because I'll tell you, it's bizarre.
Okay.
Because you look at their eyes and you can see there's no one at home.
Okay. I have had my grandmother just had her mother pass away recently.
Okay.
And
she was 400 and what?
I had a great grandmother that just passed away recently. She was 90 something.
Wow.
But 94. But anyway, my grandmother described that something had happened. She had drove down to North Carolina to see her in the hospital. But when she got there, she was like, that wasn't my mother.
There you go.
She was already gone.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like
Her
that
mother
was just a
gone.
vessel.
That's
that
right.
was just a body.
Something left.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
Something
I haven't had that experience myself, so I can't speak to it too much, but having heard that from people who are close to me.
If and when it happens, you will see firsthand that somebody's not there anymore.
Yeah, something's gone.
Nobody's home.
What do you think, and I can't, sorry, we're getting so deep here, but
it's okay.
do you think that, how do you feel then about when somebody has Alzheimer's or dementia?
To me, it's almost the same thing. I mean, they're not completely gone, but my dad had Parkinson's, and with Parkinson's, you can change up medications. And at one point, they changed up his medication. It's like my dad came to again. It's like my dad was my dad again.
I remember you saying that. God, that's
and
freaky.
It was bizarre. And my dad had been kind of checked out for, I don't know, my siblings could tell me or whatever. But to me, it was about a year, a little bit more.
Or if you've ever witnessed anyone have a stroke.
I have seen that too.
I have seen it. And it is very strange where some things just don't make sense anymore.
It is strange, but to me, that has more to do with the personality, and that has to do with their brain. Because here we go, getting kind of deep here.
Sorry, folks.
I don't believe we are our minds. I don't believe we are our thoughts. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily just a belief. It just really doesn't make sense to me. And so if the brain is affected by a stroke, to me, it's almost like the person is trapped.
Okay. That's an interesting
And
viewpoint.
their interface isn't working.
Sure.
So that's how I see it.
Okay.
But it's a really good question because it defines like what defines who they are, what defines, are
soul.
they at home or not?
A person, a human.
And even if someone has Alzheimer's and then they pass away, you still see a difference in the eyes.
Because here, the question we could be asking is Mickey a human? Is Mickey a person?
Well, it's not a question to me at all. He's a machine. Because personality programming and the ability to recite memories does not a person make. But that's part of what I wanted to get at with this is how people are interacting with this machine and treating him like he's a human, even though he's not. But it shows something about them.
What's interesting is that, and forgive me, the name, is it Sasha? His girlfriend?
Oh, darn.
Is it Natasha, Sasha? It's something with Asha or something like that.
Sorry,
Nasha?
I'm spacing on it right now.
There's something like that. Nasha. Sorry. Nasha met Mickey before he was killed, right? Am I right in thinking that?
Yes.
When they were on their journey.
Yep. Correct.
She met him. No, I don't know though. They did. Okay.
I think he was still a real boy then.
So she fell in love with him. She fell in love with the real Mickey. So then can you blame her? That's a tricky one. That's a tricky one.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I love the scene. It's a dream, which I didn't particularly care for, but towards the end of the film when he sees Toni Collette's character printing out Mark Ruffalo again. Yeah. Because to me, that's the danger of something like this.
Well, it is absolutely. And does he have the ability to dream? I mean, and that was a daydream.
Right, he was in the middle of that ceremony.
We were actually privy to the daydream of a 3D printout.
yeah. But that's so interesting though, right? Like, because if Nasha had it made, she had the best both. No matter what happens to you, you're going to come back again.
Yep,
I've got the best. You're never going to. You're immortal. You're never going to die. I'm always going to have my Mickey. Although there were different versions of him, which is also really creepy.
I thought that was interesting because that almost brings in like a generic,
then that is very robotic
variation kind of thing.
That to me feels more machine-like, where I would have a problem with that. Because like if my partner, if my girlfriend, my wife, whatever, is going to come back exactly as she was, there's a level of interest there. But if she's going to come back and be like the angry one, and then there's going to be like a smart one, and then there's going to be like a silly one, that's weird to me. I don't want that.
Well, and I hear you, but don't we all have moods, and don't we all go through? I mean, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about a general trend of how they were.
Right, Mickey 18 was like a psychopath. Was a little
bit more aggressive and what have you. But also, this is where how do you clone a person entirely? Because quite frankly, Ryan, I surprise myself every day. I don't know everything I'm going to do. I don't know my thoughts before I have them.
Yeah.
I don't know my thought until it happens.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, do I really know me? I have an idea of tendencies of things that I might do, but when I get to the heart of it, I'm still a mystery to me. And so that's where I just wonder, how can we, completely clone or
replicate
replicate a human being, because we're always going to be able to surprise each other. Always.
Yeah. Will you be able to replicate that level of
possibility,
spontaneity?
Yeah.
And change and growth.
Exactly.
Into a robot or clone or 3D printout.
Yeah.
Interesting questions, man.
They are very funny because I had, other scenes to go over, but I liked what we did, even though we can still talk about this stuff afterwards, but I think we should probably wrap this up.
Sure, absolutely. So, I love where this went. I mean, that was very interesting. I did not anticipate it going to where it went, but this movie obviously evoked that level of reaction in you and in myself, where we were thinking about these more existential questions. And is it ethical? I was talking to my girlfriend about this recently, about what will, once there is sentience amongst AI, and then we reach the singularity, AI is going to replace jobs, but then is it ethical to tell this machine to work 90 hours straight? I mean, it's just like we're going to come to that point. Like, that is going to happen, where these weird, strange ethical questions will become forefront.
And exactly.
And we'll be voting for it. It'll be in the government.
I completely agree. And that's where, that's what this discussion was meant to address. I don't know if we got there or not, because we're talking about,
brought it up,
or, is someone still at home in the eyes? But, we touched on it to a degree. So,
How did we get there, man?
I don't know.
That's
it was
so
a good journey.
funny.
It was a good journey, though. So, we have a lot of confusion about AI. That was, we do.
I want your final thoughts, though. What are your final thoughts on this?
So I love movies for how they make me feel and think. I love them for how they move me. They make me laugh. They make me wonder how I'd handle situations we see characters going through. I also love to relate to a character for something that I have already gone through, and to see how they handle it. I can feel a thread of humanity that gives me comfort in a lot of movies. And it doesn't always have to be deep. I mean, I love Zoolander,
Sure. Sure.
And you and I have this in common, how we feel about movies. And so much so that we sit here, on the couch and do this week after week, because
That's why we do it.
freaking love it.
Yeah.
But I got to say, this movie did not do any of those things for me.
Interesting.
It just didn't. But it made me wonder about our collective future with AI. That's what I came away from.
Love it. And hey, sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, agreed.
Everything's different.
I totally agree. So thank you for giving me grace on that.
Yeah.
So here's my top 5 recommendations.
Let's do it.
So for a space colonization movie, I recommend The Martian, starring Matt Damon.
Love it.
You can watch that on Max or Amazon Prime.
I support that. Great movie.
Right on. For living with advanced AI, I recommend Ex Machina, starring Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander. You can watch that on Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime.
You've got my support.
Okay, right on. For fighting despotic regimes, which they also did in this movie, I recommend V for Vendetta, starring Natalie Portman and Hugo Weaving. You can watch that on Amazon Prime.
That's a good pull.
For another movie about fighting a despotic regime in a much different way, is a film I really love, The Lives of Others. Highly recommend this one, starring
I think
Sebastian
you've told me about
Koch.
this one
I
before.
did.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet.
Takes place in 1984 Berlin, and it is brilliant. You can watch that on Amazon Prime. And the original film regarding our interaction with AI and exploration. Yes. 2001: A Space Odyssey, starring Keir Dullea. Please watch that.
One of my favorites of all time.
Mine too, on Max or Prime. So thank you so much for joining us. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.